right, so this is a fun technique that I've started doing. So what you do is, if you want to add warmth or cool something down, make something appear further into the background, you can glaze it. And you don't have to use glazing liquid, but you could use like medium or anything semi-transparent. You just mix it in with the color, and there's my awful, just spilled crap everywhere. So what I did is I took some Payne's Gray, one of my favorites colors, and then I'm gonna take, should I not wash this brush? I probably didn't. This is just a big brush with, oh crap, I need to clean that one. Story of my life. Always clean your brushes. Or you'll have to do it the hard way, which is this stuff right here, which actually works really well. But if you get it all crusted and nasty up, which I usually do, you can do that. You can heat the water up, and then you can soak them in that, rub it around in those brushes. Maybe I'll do a video or something on that, because I know everyone's dying to know. Like or subscribe, I could care less. Actually, no, I don't. I want to create a bunch of followers so I can quit my day job. Actually, I don't know. I'm just doing this because it's fun. So, by glazing, I'm just adding. The thing is, you paint over the whole area, and it gives it a slight, what's the word? I don't know. I'm not a professional artist. I'm just a dude that likes to paint sharks and sometimes ducks. So yeah, I just want to give it a little bit of a tint there. Cool that down, because that needs to go more dark. You know, you'd think I would have thought I'd been done with this already, but these little highlights and shadows, giant pain in the butt, man. I didn't think it would be that difficult. But you get one thing the slightest bit off and it just doesn't look right. And since I have obsessive compulsive disorder, legit, I'll like mess with it until it looks right. Which sometimes is never. So I never stop messing with it. I don't know. One thing I'll do is if I get something looking perfect, I'll hit it with isolation coat or varnish or something. So at least if I paint over it and screw it up, I can just wipe the varnish off. And then if I want to paint on top of it or something, I use clear gesso, which is, I had a lot of that. This stuff is great. Clear gesso, but there's Liquitex makes some. That's what I use. It's real rough though. It's got a real rough texture to it, but it's you can add layers. So I'm adding more a blue tint there. I need to get darker. Let's see. Oh, yeah. What is that? That's yeah. That'll do it. Mars Black likes the blackest, the darkest of the blacks. You got bone. I think it's called bone black. And then Mars Black is usually, I think that's the darkest one. Damn, that air conditioner is loud. I'm gonna have to speak up now. So, add more, let's see, not that transparent. Add more. And keep in mind, like, none of this is instructional. I'm just a giant, I just experiment until it looks right. So maybe somebody knows what they're doing. Come in here and give you a better explanation who's been to art school. I just had an art teacher as a mom. I experiment. I was always doing some type of art stuff at home. Really, most important thing she taught me was she knew all about art history. I mean, it's funny, I didn't really appreciate it until later in life. I started looking at Michelangelo, the Renaissance, and how, yeah, she's a wealth of knowledge in that area. But, you know, if you look at some of the, I don't know, really early works of art, they look two-dimensional. They didn't really understand depth or perspective. And the Renaissance happened after all of the, I think it was during the Dark Ages, we lost all of the techniques, things that people had learned over the years. So my mom was trying to explain that to me. I need to go back and check that out. That sounded pretty fascinating. So apparently we knew how to do depth and perspective, then we forgot how to do depth and perspective. And then the Renaissance happened and we figured it out again. And then of course you got like Michelangelo, Da Vinci, all of the freaking geniuses. Like the statue David, I still like that blows my mind, the accuracy of that. My mom said when she saw it in person, it brought a tear to her eye, and I could see that, like, that he is so talented. But yeah, I think it was Michelangelo, his dad, I don't know if it's his dad or what, was owned a quarry for marble, I think. So of course he probably had a lot of pieces to work with. I think even David, that super famous statue, most impressive work of art I think I've ever seen, is was on like a reject slab. It was like one of the defects. You can see I'm kind of toning that down a bit of more of a darker color to it. So what I'm trying to do is darken this side a bit more and lighten this side. So this needs to be a little bit lighter, because yeah, it just does, the way the light's shining on it. That's the key with like painting. I've discovered little subtle shadows and things like that. And it doesn't look hard initially when you start trying to do it. And then when you paint something that looks like you did it in 3rd grade, you're like, huh, why does it look so terrible? And then you realize like it's little subtle shadows and reflections and things like that. And I think that's why, like, when you see people doing still lifes and sketching out spheres and triangles and pyramids and things like that, everything is basically a shape. So understanding how light passes over things is a big deal. So it's good to know how to do that. Do I do that? No. I mean, I think maybe eventually that's kind of what I do, but I know the shape of an object and then I kind of try to make it look like what I think it looks like in my mind. And so I'm not like classically trained or professionally trained, but my mom is an art teacher. That's what I tell people. She's got some art skills. Yep. So anyway, I'm always like realism. Like I think you should be able to do realism before you can do abstract. I've seen so many like abstract painters and artists, like that they never, like, look at Picasso. He started with realistic works of art and he was great at it, and you could tell he had skills. And then he moved from then on. He started doing more abstract stuff, and it looked good. Whereas you have somebody, I remember being in art class and somebody just going straight to abstract because they sucked at drawing or painting. That sounds horrible, but yeah, they weren't that talented with that, and they just went straight into, I'm going to paint something abstract, or it looked like just somebody made a mess. So I think there's something to like starting with realistic works of art and then going from there. But I don't know, there's no wrong way to make art, really. You know? To each his own. So for me, part of the fun is experimenting with things and seeing what looks good, what looks bad, making mistakes, like Bob Ross would say. We'll make that a bush. We'll make that a bird, or something like that. Do you ever make mistakes in life? Yeah, let's make those birds, or something like that. You couldn't help but love that guy. He had such a kind demeanor about him. There's another guy. His name's Kevin, and he has very similar, demeanor. When you watch him, it's just very relaxing. Like, I feel like art is, painting in general is very soothing. And just fun. For me, being a tech nerd, I work a lot on computers, which don't always work right, so I have a high stress job because I'm an escalation engineer, so my job involves a lot of stress. And one of the things I've learned is when you start painting, and I think there's some science or science to back this up, but your right brain takes over and your left brain can't get in there and nag you about, oh, you haven't done this, you haven't done that yet. So it is good and bad. It'll de-stress you because you're starting to paint, and your right brain always wins, it seems, when it's taking over your creative side, and you don't really think about the stressful things in life, which is good, but it can also be bad because it could be like me, 5 hours later, I'm still painting a shark or something, and I need to get back to work. So you kind of have to be careful with it, but it is very relaxing. I think there's a art therapy or something like that. I think there's a lot to that. Paint some happy trees or whatever you want to paint. There's no wrong way to do art, you know. That's the way I think, you know. I feel like, you know, it's good to know the basics, but when you're actually creating, becoming an artist, you know, there's no wrong way to do it. It's just everybody does their own thing. That's why I like art and music and the arts. They don't really bring politics and all that drama into it. That's why, you know, I think music is so powerful and art is so powerful because you don't see color of people's skins. You don't see, you know, political beliefs. It's just two people enjoy the same piece of art, whether it be a music piece or a song or a painting, you know. They have that in common, which is pretty cool. It's one of the things I discovered early on when people realized I could draw. It was like I was terrible at making friends. I kind of was an introvert and kind of a nerd, Dungeons and Dragons nerd. And when people realized I could do art or play guitar or something, they were like, oh, that's cool. I'm like, because you're always trying to fit in as you grow up in life. And, you know, for me, playing guitar was a big deal because who doesn't love rock and roll? But anyway, thanks for watching.